the Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is custom video number 4 for Robin. If you haven't seen the other 3, links in the description, but we looked at his chronograph, his 3-hander, his F-off, Sky Dweller, and in the last video we looked at his 4th piece, which is a 16710 steel GMT Master 2 pre-ceramic 5-digit, and that is part of a pre-ceramic 5-digit trilogy of GMT function watches he has. And in this video, we're gonna look at the last 2. All right, so number 5, this is watch 5 for him, the 16713 GMT Master 2 D serial from 2005. He says, and by the way, this is a root beer. It's a 2-tone root beer, basically the 2-tone version of this watch. So that truly is a sibling. It's got that beautiful brown dial, that sort of retro brown dial, very unique. No box papers. Okay, so no box, but papers. The papers are the important things, and you can always get a box appropriate for the age of the watch. The dealer authenticated it as genuine and warranted its operation for a year. I will have the Rolex service center look at it, but it looks fine and keeps excellent time. I don't think this is your taste, Austin, and it is blingy. The dial has a wonderful sunray effect. It makes up for the loss of the bluesy that he sold to get that Sky Dweller, or that he paid the premium on the Sky Dweller with. And I never liked the maxi case. This is why I'm not interested in the current GMT Master 2 root beer in the current lineup. And I think that's a beautiful watch, the current root beer as it's nicknamed. They're really completely different watches, similar in name only. I'm talking about the difference between the 16713 and the current, I guess that would be the 12713, the ceramic root beer. Completely different watches. Both could work well in a collection. As far as this not being my taste, I actually really like it. And for a long time, I said that is a 2-tone watch that I could do. But I've really started to change. I mean, I think it's hard to stay static with your taste in this hobby. I guess it would be kind of strange. And so I am more and more eyeing 2-tone watches, and this would be a great 2-tone watch. And it was always right up there with the 5-digit pre-ceramic bluesies with me. Which do I like more? That beautiful blue on the bluesy is fantastic, but then you have that interesting gold and brown color. I mean, it's such a unique watch, and they didn't make a lot of these compared to the 16710s. So it's a great watch to have in the collection. I would consider buying this watch. So it is my kind of watch these days, I guess you could say. The root beer is much less common than the steel versions. The 2-tone versions are not as sought after. It would be hard to find a newer example than this, since it is close to the end of the production run. This is a D serial. D's came from 2005, 2006. This is a 2005, so it would be no holes case, solid and link bracelet, Swiss-made dial, and we'll talk about the bezel font in a minute. But yeah, I guess they weren't so sought after in the past. I remember seeing them and they were kind of on par with the steel versions. That has changed, and I think people have realized that it could be a sleeper. I mean, I think all of these 5 digits are sleepers in a way, but I think people are waking up to the fact that the 16713 is a really unique, low production watch, and the prices now reflect that. And they didn't a couple years ago, and that's probably when I should have picked up one of these if that's what I wanted to do. I contacted the Rolex repair center about both watches, so this and the 2-tone version. They have no record of a Rolex repair center replacing the dial or hands on either watch. It doesn't prove that the dial and the hands are original, since an authorized Rolex repair shop might have replaced them, but this is less likely since this is more often done by the Rolex Repair Center, RSC. Yeah, and that's not something I really think you need to worry about. I mean, the idea of a dial replacement, maybe, but these are pretty new watches. I mean, this is, what, 16 years old? That's pretty young in the watch world, and I can imagine why it would have a replacement dial, would there be a difference between a replacement dial and a new dial? That's interesting. I mean, if this was, for example, a W serial from 1995 and it had a Swiss-made dial, okay, then we have a bit of a problem. But I think you're fine, even if there was a replacement dial in it, and I don't think there is. It's not something you need to worry about, I think. There might be some sort of marking that Rolex knows about that identifies it as a service dial. You know, generally service dials are, of course, not as desirable as the original dial, but yeah, you're fine, all right? But I'm glad you bring it up because we get to talk about it. Now, as far as the hands go, Luminova hands, and whether they've been replaced or not, who cares? They're exactly the same. I mean, it's not like somebody could ever figure that out. And the crown is replaced when you have a Rolex watch serviced, and that's just something that nobody really talks about. Oh, it doesn't have the original crown. Who cares? It's got just a replacement crown, same crown. I wouldn't think that's like a lesser watch. I mean, I guess all of my watches that have been serviced have replacement crowns. Well, yeah, good luck trying to distinguish it between the previous crown. So not a problem there. He also talks about the bezel. He says, another thing you won't like, Austin, is that I toned it down with an all brown aftermarket bezel insert. And I noticed because it has those hooked twos, you know, the two is shaped like this, and the hooked twos, the two kind of comes out a little past the base of the two. I've got videos about that. And immediately when I saw it, I pegged those twos and pegged the bezel as an aftermarket insert. I'm glad you know it, so I don't have to tell you that. You did that. And he says, Rolex sold this insert with the all gold versions, and I read that ADs sometimes put them on new 16713s. Very interesting. So the all brown insert was for the solid gold watches. I never really put two and two together, but that makes sense. And he points out that back in the day, ADs used to do that. They used to, you know, switch around bezels, and they would never do that these days. I mean, they couldn't do that these days, but RSC would never do that these days. But back in the day, apparently, authorized dealers would put a Coke bezel insert, and a Coke bezel insert is only found on GMT Master 2s, all right? It's just a GMT Master 2 thing, but they used to put those on the regular GMTs, the 16700s, if the customer wanted that. They would never do something like that these days, and Rolex would never sell a person with a 16700 a Coke insert, all right? They wouldn't sanction that, but back in the day, they did. So, yeah, things were kind of casual, a little bit loose back in the day. That must have been nice, but yeah, those times have changed. However, the RSC said no, and that's no to getting an authentic all-brown insert for this watch, and that's no surprise because it didn't come on this watch, and you'd have to have the appropriate watch to get that all-brown insert, so no surprise there. I can always revert to the original specs, and you can see the original insert here, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'm willing to bet that it's a thin font sans serif insert because, of course, it's a 2005 insert. And I guess the, you know, older 90s root beers had the fat font serifed insert of the same color. I mean, that should be the way it works. But as long as you have the regular, real, authentic insert, you know, put on what you want, and you can protect this insert in this way. And there we go. All right, so look, I said we're going to get to the other watch, but here we are. We're already deep into the video, and I guess we'll save that third one for another video. We keep doing that, but makes the videos more manageable. What do I have to say about this? Well, I would try to source an original all brown insert, an authentic one. It'll be expensive, it'll be hard to authenticate, but that's where I would channel your attention and resources. You've got 6 watches. We're going to look at the last one in the next video. You don't really need more watches. I think you need parts, and I think you need parts for specifically this watch. I think you need at least one more insert, an authentic all brown insert, okay, which would be great to have. So do that, and there's nothing like a 5-digit Rolex two-tone root beer on a two-tone Jubilee bracelet. That's my favorite configuration. So that's another thing that I would do. Now, RSC will probably help you out with that. It'll be expensive. The steel version is about $1,500. There's going to be gold in this version, so you're going to have to save your money for that. But that's what I would do. I would really want that period correct two-tone bracelet. I just think there's something pretty cool about the Oyster 5-digit two-tone root beer, but there's something downright magical about the Jubilee two-tone 5-digit root beer. That's what I would do. So that's my advice for you. Thank you, Robin. We'll see you guys in the next video. We'll talk about his last piece, and until then, let him know what you think. Let him know what you think about my advice. Is that what you would do? You don't know what he has for this last piece, but instead of going more watches, would you just concentrate on parts for this watch? That's the way I would go. I'd want that bracelet. All right, take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.